Hello and welcome back to Code with Ibra once again. In this video we are going to look at CSS Flexbox. We are going to look at how to use CSS Flexbox. Okay, so walking you to the project, we have here the index file, which is the HTML, and then the CSS. So on the line 7 I have linked the CSS file inside our HTML. So let's begin. But if we must start, CSS Flexbox is simply a way of aligning content on the browser, in the browser. Okay, so let's start with something. So I create a div and I call it parent, and then this parent will have some children. So a div of item 1. Let me just duplicate them. So item 1, item 2, and then item 3. Let me give them a class. Let's call them child. Okay, let's call them child because simply they are children of the parent element. So child. Oh, my spellings is very bad. Okay, so class of child. All right, so now if at the moment if we go to the browser and we look at the changes, we are not going to see anything much. We are just going to see the name, okay, the content of the child. That is what we are going to see. So let's come here, and then I think we have to first style the children so that we can look at the demonstration. So I pick the child element, and because this is a class and all of them are having the same class, when we give the style to the child element, all of them are going to they are going to adapt to the style. They are going to get that style because they all have that same class. So quickly, let me give it a padding of 20 pixels, and then let's give them color of black. Okay, 3 zeros, black. And then I'll also give them a font size of 20 pixels, and lastly I'll give them a background color of red. Let's go to the browser and refresh. So refreshing, this is what we see on the screen. Okay, we see all of the items grouped together. Okay, so let us introduce some margin so that there will be some spaces around the items. So I give them a margin of, let's say, 20 pixels, and refreshing, we see that now our items are spaced out. They all have their margins around them. Okay, very good. So this is where the CSS Flexbox comes in. One thing to take notice of is with CSS Flexbox, the Flexbox property is not applied to the child. Okay, it's applied always to the parent. So it's the parent that would take that property, and the effect will be seen among the children. Okay, so now we have the child specified. Let us now take the parent. Okay, so you can put it anywhere, but let me just bring it at the top. So parent, and I'll give it a display property of flex. That is all. If you give it a display property of flex, that means we have specified the Flexbox property for the parent. That means Flexbox is in action. So this is what we have now. Let's refresh, and once we refreshed, you can see that at first it was aligned horizontally, but now the items are sitting in rows. Okay, the items are now sitting in rows. We see item 1 next to item 2, and item 2 next to item 3. Okay, oh my bad, this one is supposed to be item 3. All right, it's supposed to be item 3. So item 3, not 4, 3. All right, so item 1, 2, 3, they are all sitting next to each other. Let's come, this is where we are going to mostly look at the Flexbox from the parent point. So with this side we have another property in the Flexbox called the flex direction. Okay, so the flex direction has the responsibility of changing the direction of the children element. Okay, so by default the flex direction is set to rows. That is why the moment when we apply the display flex, automatically you see that our items are now they are now in rows sitting next to each other. Okay, so let's come here to change things. So we say that flex direction. Okay, then we set it to column. When we set it to column and we refresh, we see that now our items are in columns, right? They are now in columns. So if we change it back to row, that will be like the default. They will sit next to each other. So that is all about the flex direction property in Flexbox. We also have another property called justify content. Justify content is for specifying the spaces between the children or the children of your element. Okay, so with this we come here to specify justify content, and justify content has so many properties here. We are not going to look at everything here. We are going to look at few of them. Some of them I will leave them out for you to try them, and others, most of them I have a blog, I have an article on this section. Everything is discussed there, so you can go there if you want to have more in-depth understanding. You can go and read on the blog to get more insight about whatever you wouldn't be getting here. Okay, so now we are going to start with Flexbox of space between. Space between. What the space between does is simply it spaces the items, it spread them across the screen. Okay, so this is our screen and we have specified the justify content of space between. Let's refresh and see what happens. Okay, good. So when we refresh, you see that our items are now spreading across the screen. We have item 1, item 2 and item 3 all spread across the screen. Okay, so this is a very good way. It is a way of making nav bars, whereby this side will become the logo. Here this one will be the content, which is home, about us, contact us, the links, and this side will be maybe your box, maybe your button or any other thing that you want to display at the other side. Okay, so Flexbox is really a great feature in CSS that makes building responsive website very easily. So we have space between, and of course it's not the only thing that we have. We also have the space around. What the space around does is simply like it's just like the space between, but the space around that one, the spaces at the end of the side will be increased. You see, talking about this side, you see some space in here. The space will just increase. So we can see that by just when we refresh, you see that now at first the space wasn't wide like this, but now it has become wide. Okay, it's now wide. We also have another one called space evenly. Okay, so space evenly is also just like this one, which is the space around, but as for that one too, it will give more space at this side. Okay, more space at this side. So let's refresh and see what will happen. Okay, so that is what you are seeing on the screen right now. So that's all about the justify content, and of course it's not the only thing. Maybe you want your content to let me just comment this one out, or let me just cut it off. I'll bring it later. So by default, this is how our content look like. Okay, what if maybe we want other children elements? Okay, we want this our children, okay, to move to the center, and previously we achieved this with positions. So what if we want to do this with Flexbox? It's pretty simple. You simply have to come to the code. You come to the code and you specify the justify content. Okay, justify content, that same justify content, and you set it to center. You set it to center, and when you set it to center, you refresh and you watch what will happen. Okay, you see that now the children is in the center. So one thing I want you to understand is, as for CSS Flexbox, it is applied to the parent and never the children. Okay, you don't want to do this with a child. If you do that, you will not see anything. Okay, you apply them only to the parent of your element. That is why we are doing it with the parent. So justify content center will simply center the element to the center of the screen. All right, and that is not the only thing. Sometimes we want to bring the the children maybe from center to maybe this side. Okay, if you wanted to bring it to the right side, we also have a way of doing that. And how we do that is we simply come to the justify content and we specify flex end. Okay, you can also use left and it will work. Sorry, you can use the right. Okay, but flex end seems to be working perfectly. So flex end will simply do the magic for us. Let's come to refresh and you see it at the right side of the screen. What if we also want to bring it to this side, which is the right side of the screen? Well, what we do is very simple. This is flex end and is bringing the children element to the end of the screen. So we now, instead of saying end, we say start. So flex start, and that will take the content to the start of the screen. Let's watch it happening. All right, so flex start. Let's refresh and we see it at the left side of the screen. Okay, so it's pretty simple. It's very easy, not really difficult. And how we did it initially, let us make it space between. If you want it to be you want your element to spread across the screen like this, like what you are seeing. All right, so that is all about the Flexbox. With Flexbox, there's no one way of doing it. You have to do it the way you want your element to look like. Okay, you are not forced to do it in a particular way, or you are not forced to adapt to a particular style, but whatever style or whichever way that you do which will suit whatever you want to create is accepted with CSS, is accepted in web development. So that is what I will tell you before we move on. So this is about the justify content, and you can be playing around with it and trying other values with the justify content to see the other things that you can also do with it. Okay, and not only that, I will also introduce you guys to another property, but before I go to that one, I want to make some changes here. Okay, so the item 2, this item 2, I want to give it a different property. So let me just say item 2. I give it a class called item 2, and I'll come to the CSS and I'll target that item 2, and then I'll give it a class of okay, no, let me give it a value of height, and let me set the height to 150 pixels. Okay, so at the moment we have the item 2, we've given it a height of 150 pixels, and when we refresh, we see that all the other children are also having the height of that 150 pixels. Okay, but you can all bear witness that we gave the 150 pixel to only the item 2. Okay, only the item 2. The rest we did not give them that height, but they are all adapting to that particular height. So which we don't want this to happen. So the only way we can fix this is very simple. We just have to come to the child element, come to the child, and let's specify a height of fit content. Okay, fit content. So once we specify the fit content, we see all the elements will try to fit their own content. And this one, we have specified the height of 200 pixels, so that is what it will take. Is it 200 pixels? Yeah, 150. So that is what it would take. Okay, so before we go to the next element, the next property, the next one, yeah, that is why we have done this. So the next one on the list is the align items. So align items is a way of aligning the items, aligning the items. Okay, aligning the items. So you see this one, it has been aligned, but you can see that it is all aligning to the top. Okay, it is aligning to the top. What I mean is, you see, if you rule the line here, you can see that they are all touching the head of each other element are touching themselves. Okay, so they have been aligned at the top side. Okay, we can change this style and align them to the center so that they look good. And how we do that is we simply have to come here and specify align items. Okay, and let's say center. If we specify center, we come to the browser, we refresh, and watch what happens. You see, at first it was touching the head of this guy right here, the item 2, but now everything is now in the middle. Okay, everything is now in the middle at the center of the screen. So that is all about the align items center. Align item center will align the items at the middle of the screen. Okay, so there's also a way of aligning your items. Maybe you want to bring them down here. Okay, maybe you want them to be aligned at the button. Okay, so what we do is very simple. It's just like the justify content. We just come here and specify flex end. So flex end will simply bring it to the end, that is the side. So refresh and we see it at the end, right? I hope you are with me. Very good. And someone will also say, okay, what if we want to bring it to the top? If you want to bring it to the top, this is end, so change the end and make it start, and you see the wonders in action. Flex start, and this is what you are seeing. Okay, by default it is flex start. That is why if we don't even specify the align items here, you can still see that it is at the top. Okay, so by default the items are aligned at the top, at the start. Okay, you can also make it baseline. All right, but there's so many other properties in it. You can make it like baseline, and I think it's gonna be the same. Okay, it's going to be the same. All right, we have so many other properties too, and I will try. Everything will come in the article of this particular video. I've linked the article in the description below, so you try to go navigate to that link and you can find everything that you need also in the article, in the blog. Okay, so that is not all about the Flexbox property. There are some other ones too that I want to also show, but let me make duplicate of the classes so that we can demonstrate that. Okay, we can be demonstrating that. So let me come and then refresh, and we see a whole lot of items now available on the screen. Okay, but you can verify for yourself. You can see for yourself that these items are not responsive. Let me cut this one off, or let me comment it out. You can see that they are not responsive. Okay, they are not responsive simply because they are not fitting the screen. You have to scroll to the left and then the right before you can see all the children, which is very, very bad. So there's another property in the Flexbox that handles this particular scenario, that has a way of fixing this issue, and we call it flex wrap. Okay, we call it flex wrap. So simply we have to come to the parent, and let me just specify this one too. Okay, let me make it center, right? Whichever way, it doesn't really matter. Let's make it center. So we have another one called flex wrap. Okay, so the flex wrap has so many values, and its responsibility is to make sure that scenarios like this, whereby the items the children do not fit the screen, making it unresponsive, the flex wrap has a way of dealing with this so that it makes sure everything works out correctly, fitting the screen and making it really responsive. Okay, so watch what happens. Let me set it to wrap and look at what will happen. Right, I refresh now, and you see that now our items which was not fitting the screen is now fitting the screen. Right, you see that they are now fitting the screen. There's no, and moreover there's no horizontal scroll bar here, right, indicating that our item is fitting the screen. Now of course we can now change the size of the screen, try to reduce it, and you see that the items is fitting the screen without some of them going out. And this is really responsive design. Okay, if you add media query to Flexbox, then you are done with responsive design in CSS. Other things of course have to come into play, but these two things are the most important thing that makes website development, makes responsive web development. All right, other things has to come into play also, but the most important one are the Flexbox or grid, and also the media queries. Okay, so this is it. Now it's responsive. So to achieve this, let me go back again. You need to set the flex wrap property. You need to set this to wrap. By default it is no wrap, and what no wrap does is it will make sure that all your item will be on the one line, and you have to use the horizontal scroll bar to scroll it to the left and then to the right to make sure that you get the remaining of the item that is not available in the screen. So this is why the flex wrap property is in to help us fix this particular problem. Okay, so I want to go back to the wrap so that it becomes responsive. Like this. Okay, that's very fine. And I think this is something small that I want to introduce to you guys, and I will not be going further. I will not be going in much. I will end it here. I will leave the rest in the blog so you can go to learn, but this is just the this is just the demonstration video of how things are done in CSS. And from this point I am coming to take you guys to the practical section. We are going to build website navbar. We are going to build navigation, look at how navbars are and how to build them with CSS Flexbox. Okay, it's going to be amazing. So I want you to, if you have not liked the video, like the video, click on the subscribe button, and then share with your friends also so that they can also enjoy the show. I want you to also try as much as possible to leave your your comment in the description below. This is really what motivates us to be bringing content like this always. Okay, all right, so let's move on to building navbar and using Flexbox.